Well, hello everyone. I am very happy to have the guest that we have tonight. Welcome everybody else who's watching. It took us a few minutes to get started. Took us a few minutes to get sharing everywhere. So we're happy you're here. Happy you're watching episode 2 of Prodigious Kentuckians. You can sit back, relax, get a snack, put your feet up, do whatever you want to do. We'll do all the work for you. I'm your host, Trent Garrison, and this is my co-host, Julie Martinez. Hello, Julie. Are you there?
I'm here. Glad to be here with everybody tonight.
All right, great. Well, we're glad to have you back. I apologize for not introducing you last time. A lot of my friends know you anyway, so that's good. Just a quick note before we get started today. We are now on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. We're on pretty much every podcast, and we'll soon have a website. So I'm very excited about that. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So for tonight, I am very happy and excited to have our guest that I've known for pretty much, I guess, exactly 4 years now for Nema, and not too much different than that for Jeni. But we have Nema Brewer on, Dr. Jeni Bolander, and we will later have music from Eric Bolander and These Assholes, which I'm not sure if these assholes are going to be joining us or not, but that may be us. We don't know. So we'll figure that out. So welcome, friends. How's it going?
Going good. My fat beagle Johnny Cash here has decided to join us, but he's very busy licking himself right now. So
all right,
might pop back up in a second.
Well, we welcome all pets.
Things are good. Yeah, I don't have a fat beagle licking itself with me, but I do have cats and a lot of creatures that my dad has killed. So
we took a tour earlier, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we haven't seen each other in a long time with COVID and everything, so it's nice to just see your faces, and just we talked a little bit beforehand, so that was nice. But I'll jump right in. So if you don't mind, Nema and Jeni, just tell us how 120 got started. How did all this happen? How did you get involved?
Well, I'll jump in first, and Jeni can jump on too. I mean, basically, the long and the short of it is that a need there was a need for regular rank and file public employees, specifically school employees as well, to just take a stand and to really get involved in Frankfort, and to be that voice that sometimes we didn't feel like we were represented sometimes, as far as just the general rank and file. And of course, it was at the time when West Virginia had really stepped up and stepped out, literally. And so, I just kept thinking, why not us? Why not us? And then Blair, who was the co-founder along with me, just one day she just said, what's it going to take to shut down this state? And basically I had seen an NPR or heard an NPR report about how West Virginia organized and how they kind of did it with this secret Facebook group. And so I just told Blair, I said, we just need to start a Facebook page. And so we started the page, and I think when we woke up the next morning, there were like 8,000 people in the group, and we were like, holy shit, like this is real. Like, like now we can't, there's no going back now. And so basically there had been some other stuff we had done with Bluegrass Activists Alliance, going to Frankfort before all this had started really helped. And then that kind of my work with BGAA also, folks were like, hey, how can we do this with Kentucky United, which is the employee group, our sister group. And so they actually kicked off in November 1st, I think was the date, Jeni, if I'm correct about that. They did the first big rally, in Frankfort. Nobody knew who anybody was really. And that really kicked it off. And from August until March, I guess, is whenever we said we've got to do something. But literally within 3 weeks after 120 was formed, we shut down about 30 districts in the state. From the time it was that it formed until the time that we burst onto the scene, it was about 3 weeks. So there was a lot of organizing that was done very quickly, very organically, but then also really tightly organized. We learned a lot from West Virginia. We learned a lot from our labor brothers and sisters on exactly how to group it, like to where it was manageable. And that was all in about 3 weeks. And so that was kind of the most, I think, amazing part about all of it. But that's really how we started. We saw this stuff building, and then we finally said, well, why not us, Kentucky? And so that's kind of what we did.
Yeah, for those who might be listening to this for the first time and who have not heard of 120, which most of my friends in the places this is going to be, they will have heard of it. But what caused this? Even backing up a little bit more than that, what was the impetus of people wanting to get together, and just kind of the general mission, I guess you would say, of 120?
I think it was, a lot of these groups sprang up out of a response to the Governor Bevin's first pension plan. And I think that's how I got involved in joining Kentucky Government United. Shoot, I'm going to say it wrong, and I'm so mad. Help me out. Katie's group. What is it? Help me.
Kentucky United. Yeah.
Kentucky United, we stand government employees. Yes. Thank you. I don't want to get that wrong. But I originally went to their rally on November 1st, like Nema was saying. And that's sort of how I got involved. But it all started with that really awful pension plan that really would have tanked teachers, police, firefighters, any state employee, their pensions. And I was a relatively new mom to an infant at the time. So I was up a lot of late nights with her, and I would have her in one arm and my phone in the other, reading and learning literally everything I could. And that's how I got involved with the Facebook groups and whatnot, to learn more, because people were providing articles and more to read, so I would know what was happening. I think sometime around that Christmas, maybe right after Christmas when they went into session, I decided to schedule like my first meeting with my representative and my senator. And I had never done anything like that before. I didn't realize it was easy and anybody could do it, especially me. Like, that was very shocking to me. And then eventually got added. I was one of the 8,000 people that joined, that was dropped into the group. Somebody added me right after 120 started. So, but all of it was 100% in response to Bevin's really awful, was it the Keeping the Promise plan? Was that what he called it? I think that was
the PFM reports, what we call it, PFM. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it turns out we were 100% right on how bad that was. It's Blair.
We have a surprise guest
on how bad that was, because they finally released an actuarial report for it. It would have cost the state so much more money, made our pension so much worse. And because remember, they wouldn't release it forever. And the reason was it was such a bad deal. So yeah, that's sort of how I got involved. But I'm just really excited to see Blair's face.
Me too.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is Blair. She is the co-founder of 120. So hello, Blair.
Hi. Sorry, I've been busy burning my kitchen down all day today. So.
I heard about that. That's
yes,
crazy.
It's been very exciting.
It's been a day for everybody. Jenny had some bad luck earlier too. So yeah, it's sorry to hear about all that, but glad you made it. Glad you're here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Old familiar faces.
We were just talking about how folks got involved with 120 and the origins of it and everything. So
it was the universe, that put us all together at the right time, I guess.
That's right. That's right.
I think we frequently joke that if we have anything to thank Matt Bevin for, it's each other. Like, I don't know that we ever would have met had he not been such an awful human in government.
Yep.
Well, Julie, do you have any questions?
Yeah. I was just remembering, as both of you were talking about that first rally in Frankfurt, and I was remember being there, and it was standing on the steps there and just looking out at the sea of people as they were coming in that day, and just feeling like this was a really historic moment of Kentuckians coming together. And what I love about it is that it really did spark a whole movement, and you all have sparked a whole movement. And I'm curious to know, what do you feel like some of your successes have been through the 120? I have some ideas of, some of the things I think have been so amazing. I love you all have activated people. You're getting people out. Every time we have an election, you all are doing a ton. I think you had a huge amount to do with Bashir being elected. But I would love to hear from you all. What do you feel most proud about? What successes do you feel like you've had in the last couple of years?
I'll happily start. I think you were talking about the first sick out we had, which was 3 weeks after we had started as 120. I feel like for me, that will always be something that's just mind-blowing to me for a couple of reasons. But one was that most of us had never met in person until that day. Most of the leaders in 120, that was the first time we ever met. And so it's really hard to imagine that you can do all of that without even seeing each other's faces, but you can. We stayed in constant contact for weeks. We, hammered down messaging. We knew kind of what, you had a quick crash course in getting to know these people and what they were good at, what their strengths were, what your strengths were, and whatnot. So I will forever and ever probably, you talk about your face was shocked. I think our faces were even more shocked. Like, oh my God, that happened. I remember walking. We met in the back of the Capitol by the annex, and we walked around the building, and that's when we first saw all the people down the hill near the KEA building that were going to start coming up, and it was just mind-blowing. And I was noticing on your screen, Saver, you had Trent for this call that the pictures from inside the Capitol and outside, but definitely inside down at the bottom. It's unreal how many people were in there, because that's just a picture taken from the second floor, coming down the steps from the third floor, looking at the second floor. But there were people, the first floor was like that, the second floor was like that. You can't really crowd in on the third floor like that because they just physically won't let you. But it was wall to wall. I've never, ever, ever seen anything like it. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty much the moment where I think all of us were like, holy crap, this is actually real. And it was one of those things. I think that the biggest contribution that the 120 has done is that we have provided a community for people to learn how to use their voice. And I think, to me, that's the legacy. We went hard after Bevan. Bashir got in. That was awesome. But I think, to me, what I hope that the lasting legacy of the 120 is that it returned a voice and a feeling of we can do this if we're in it together, kind of thing, to a lot of people who felt disenfranchised and a little bit kind of, just like that they didn't really have any say in anything. And that was the first thing. I think the second thing is that it really opened up government, and a lot of people learned how their government worked. I learned how my government worked, and the LRC line and all these things. These are things that I think a lot of us had no clue about 3 years ago. And the beauty too, and I'm not trying to, we've had some great men who have helped us along the way, but to me, the incredible beauty of the 120 is that it is a predominantly female organization, and that these are women who have found each other, found their voices, found their passion. And, we're moms, we're wives, we're partners, we're whatever. But yet these are things that we realized that we could do. And I think that alone should be what the takeaway is that, strong women who decided they weren't going to put up with it anymore, with the backing of some really good men, as well. And to me, that I hope that's the lasting legacy is that the returning the power to the people instead of, anything else. I hope that's the lasting legacy. That's my proudest moment, is that all these wonderful women who just said, we're not going to, we can't do it anymore. We used to say, Superman's not coming. We're the heroes to save ourselves. Nobody's coming to help. And so I think that's still true today. So
from the comments on Facebook, Sarah says, and the answer to how did it started, she says, a bunch of pissed off women. That's how it started. And I love
another comment I saw is, going off of what Nema just said, there's a bunch of comments, but I fully attribute the reason that I'm involved now to 120. So
that's
I think,
awesome.
I think a lot of people would say the same thing, given that it grew to 40,000 in a matter of a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And there were, the reason it was called 120 is because there were people in all 120 counties who were involved. And that's something truly impressive. And it speaks to, like somebody said, a bunch of pissed off people can do if the wrong type of legislation comes down.
I can't believe y'all aren't giving thanks to Damon Thayer, because that's really the day after that, or it was that same day. If people were in Frankfurt that day when they were pushing that legislation through, and Damon Thayer, with his little smirk, that's how I remember it all going down, because we were in an overflow room, and I had just met Nema. And I could just hear her hollering, down the hallway there. And it's like, if they're going to try to ruin our day, we're going to ruin their day. And I had nothing but time. And, I said, what are we going to call this thing? I remember I reached out to somebody. I said, how do we get us a strike going? And we were trying to come, it was like, was it 120? What is the name? And so we got the Facebook group going, and Nema started talking mutiny, and we got it up at 6 p.m. and by 7 p.m. we had 1,000 people.
Yep.
By 9 there were like 4,000 people. When we woke up the next morning, it was 10,000 people, and it was
that's
like,
right.
Crap. And so then it started getting kind of real. And I don't remember. I think I kind of felt that it was that first shutdown, that first Wildcat was 2 weeks, not 3 weeks after.
Oh.
It was quick. I mean, when it started rolling, it was like it wouldn't stop. And when we did, there was only a couple handfuls of us that shut the state down. So I'll always be proud of that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that day, that next morning at the Capitol, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Look how much crap Nema started,
Who's that with you, Blair?
That's Athena Rose.
Hi there.
So I'll always be proud of that. I mean, that was, because it was just, because I was going up there, because of course with what I do, I'm very seasonal. So I just had nothing but time. And my husband's a school teacher. So I thought I'll just go up on his benefit. And we met through a mutual friend, Nema and I did. I wish I had a picture of the way she looked at me the first time I met her. She's like, who the hell is this out of Louisville, Kentucky? Like, who is this person? And then I was like, but really, that day, the Damon Thayer with that smirk, that was it. That was it. I thought they were going to sit here. And it was just the frustration of it. Teachers, public employees work very hard for what they have, and trying to take it away. And, before the 120 happened, I would sit on some of the KEA calls, and you'd hear folks that all they had was their pension, and the fear of people, they were already couldn't make ends meet. And I was an abomination. So I thought, well, hell, and at that point I thought that they, that the associations, everybody had it taken care of. And then we were finding out very quickly it wasn't taken care of. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I'll always be, and then, things were happening so fast, you start getting 20,000 people in a group and people want answers and they want some direction. And it was just trying to get people to, we broke it down into zones. That's right. Somebody had told us to break it down, break it up into the 6 zones. And then it was just trying to get people to step up. And I think Jeni was the first one, Lexington. And then of course we got Christina, the Trospers on, but it seemed, yeah, but Jeni was the first one that stepped up. And then Kelsey, well, it might have been, yeah, it might have been, so.
And Paula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got it. And then Travis, I guess, was our Western Kentucky. But it was just trying to get people to help.
So how was the relationship between teachers and state employees? How did that happen? With 120's mission is to help teachers, but also state employees from my understanding. So how did that, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, I think that, one of the things that we noticed that Frankfurt really likes to do is, they like to separate us into tiers. They like to separate us into different retirement systems. So you kind of have, there's always kind of this haves and have nots kind of thing going on. And those are just ways to divide employees ultimately, like the tier systems and stuff. That's what that does. And so for us, because when I started on the public, because everybody knows I'm not a teacher, but
does everybody know?
I'm not a teacher, but I work for for a public school system as a graphic artist, and so and I'm in the teacher retirement system, and so because of my classification. So anyway, basically we recognize that we're all really in this together, and that a lot of the state employees had gotten screwed over prior. And so, but I don't think the time wasn't right. You didn't have what was going on in West Virginia. West Virginia was a real catalyst for us and really showed us that it could be done, especially because they're our neighbors. They're so close, we have a really good relationship with a lot of the folks still in the West Virginia movement. And so I think that that's really kind of what started it. But we also recognize that we're all in this together. We're all public employees. But what we realized is that really the teachers really had the most power to really halt things, to stop the madness. And so that was kind of, that's kind of how it all just came about. We were like, listen, if we're gonna make a real stand, we've got to have teachers to really make a stand with us too. And so, we realized that we need each other. Support services needs teachers just like teachers need support services. And so it was just one of those things like solidarity, and I think that really helped too. We've always thought that nobody should be left behind, in any of this. And so that's kind of that. I hope that answered your question, Trent.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I have all kinds of questions, but I'll turn it over to Julie for now.
All right.
Yeah, several people are mentioning in the comments on Facebook, and this dovetailed with the question that I had next as well. We have another session coming up in January. We have a lot of challenges right now. I mean, already we're dealing with the pandemic. COVID has had such a huge impact on our schools this year and our teachers, the workload of our teachers. And we have another session coming with a supermajority of Republicans, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're not pro-education, but on the same hand, we have found in the past that often Republicans are not pro-education, or not pro-public education. So what are some priorities for this coming year for you all?
Excuse me, Jeni, I'll pass this off to you, but I think that the first thing that the priority is the pandemic should come before everything else. The response as far as if we want our schools to open, our communities have got to follow the guidelines. These things don't just happen, because you want them to happen. They happen because you work towards making it happen. And so, I have a lot of concerns that we don't have proper PPE in our public schools. We don't have, because of, class sizes. in our public schools, we don't have the capacity to space out 6 feet to be safe. We don't have the money, the dollars to put up plexiglass fish bowls for every teacher, every student. We just don't have it. And so for me, that has to be the number one priority is, and it's a budget year because they only passed a 1-year budget this past time. And so they've got 30 days to pass a budget and to figure out whatever else they're going to do to us. And so I think our priority number one is always public education, fully funded. That includes our universities. It also, we need to focus on what it is that we've learned from this pandemic so far. What can we do to better education after coming through this? Access to the internet. These are things that, even in the city of Lexington, we struggled with getting hotspots initially for students. I can't imagine what it's like in the rural counties. And so, I think that to me should be what we're talking about. Of course, we're going to be dealing with a bunch of stuff. I have no doubts they're going to bring vouchers up again. And like we were talking about earlier, people don't understand that private schools have much fewer kids in their classrooms than public schools do. That's why it's been a little bit safer, I think, for them to open, or they think that they can, And so, there's just all kinds of different challenges. And I don't really know. I'll be honest with you. It could be really, really scary bad this year because we don't really have a mechanism to stop the numbers, like we're so outnumbered. And it was really unfortunate. Travis Brenda got beat. He was a huge GOP public ed supporter. And, he got beat because people were being petty because Jonathan Shell got beat the first time. I mean, it was petty politics. His own party called him a rhino and worked to get him thrown out because they were mad because their buddy Jonathan Shell wasn't there anymore. This is the kind of stuff that happens in Frankfort. It doesn't matter if you're a good legislator and you're actually doing things for your community and you're supporting public ed. It's all part of this, little clique group. And this is an issue. But that's just me pontificating. So I'll let Jeni finish it up.
We had sat down after last session and really brainstormed some things we really wanted to hit hard this session so that we could start working over the summer and talking to our contacts and really kind of, instead of fighting things, we wanted to push for things. And then the pandemic happened. So I don't think any of us thought we would have been in the place we were, the position we were 9-10 months ago. So some of that fell by the wayside and new priorities emerged. I think Nema touched on class size, and that's one that's really been exposed as a bigger problem than it, we need lower class sizes, and we've talked about that for years. But we've not really seen any push to get that done. The fact remains that most of the districts across the state would be able to be back in schools if we had those lower class sizes in place to start with, period. And social distancing wouldn't be an issue. But when you're sitting in classes with 31, 32, sometimes more to a teacher, it becomes a real issue. Our buildings are old. A lot of our buildings are old. The ventilation's not good. There's just no way currently to do it safely. However, if we had had proper funding all along, it wouldn't have even been an issue. I don't know. There's not a single bit of research that states the more kids you have in a class, the better they all learn. In fact, it all says the exact opposite. The lower the class size, the better the learning outcomes for everybody involved. So, this is definitely, like I said, the pandemic has absolutely exposed that problem and ripped the Band-Aid off, as well as school funding, which is the reason why classrooms are so overcrowded. So I think that will definitely be at the top of our list of things we are advocating for moving forward.
I just have a question that Nema touched on earlier. Have you forged good relationships on both sides of the aisle?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and people, a lot of people who don't know anything about us assume that we are a, Democrat liberal group. We're not. We have tried really hard to maintain nonpartisan ship within our ranks. Now, it's very difficult, especially in this political climate, to do that. And so a lot of the things that we do or don't do, to the chagrin of some people, is based on basically what our membership decides. And by meaning decides, like, we pay attention, if somebody posts something and it creates this hot debate and it's just raging out of control, then we're like, okay, we cannot dive into this because it is ripping our group apart. And the beauty of the 120 has been, the mission has always been three things: public education funding, protecting pensions, and voting out people who don't support us. That's been our top three. We've never veered from it. And we also focus state level. We don't get in to federal stuff because we honestly don't have the capacity to handle. I mean, we'd have to bring in a whole new crew just to follow federal stuff. I mean, to be honest with you. And so I think that's the other thing. So anyway, Jeni, you have any more to add to that?
No, I think that was right on. I agree.
I promised you all 30 minutes, and can you believe it's already been 35 minutes? That's crazy. But I do have one more, another question before we get to our awesome live music tonight, and Julie might have a question as well. But I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit more of the challenges that you expect to see in the upcoming session or year, and talk a little bit about the future of 120.
I'll talk about the future because it's one of my favorite things to say anytime I'm ever asked is, I hope we eventually put ourselves out of business. I hope people learn how to advocate and we keep the group so that if we need collective action, we have it. But I hope we teach everybody to find their voice. And, I think people would probably laugh if they understood how mind-numbingly boring and ordinary we all are. I'm a mom. I've got a fat beagle. I'm a teacher. There's nothing really super special about me, except for I decided to find like-minded people and pursue a cause with them. And I hope we put ourselves out of business eventually, quite frankly, because that will mean that everybody has learned to find like-minded people and use their voice. And that's my ultimate goal, period.
Yeah, I think I agree with Jeni. Ultimately, I hope that it's one of those things that people have learned so much that we don't have to continually, fight this uphill battle. And I hope that eventually people learn enough to know that, hey, I can do this myself. It's not, and I've always told people the 120 is not me, Jeni, Blair, Paula, any of our folks. The 120 is everyone, is all of us. We all have that ability to rise up and take a stand. We just have to find it within ourselves. And I think that's what I hope too. I hope we do put ourselves out of business. I've got plenty of other things, plenty of boating to do, plenty of beer to drink, plenty of fish to catch. I'm old. I don't, I'm like Jeni, and it's a lot of work. I mean, I think that, but it's very fulfilling. I've never been so frustrated over the last 3 years of my life as I have this 3 years, but I've also never been more alive, if that makes sense, because, you feel like you're actually working for something bigger than you. And that's the whole thing. Like, to have a purpose outside of just, making dinner and, doing this and doing that. I mean, those are the things that I hope too. And I hope that we get to a point where we have enough connections on both sides of the aisle to where we can kind of relax a little bit and say, okay, well, we don't need to be pushing this hard. And I think we've done a really good job with that over the last couple of years. When we first came out, we were gangbusters and everybody was our enemy. And now, we have managed to make those connections. And I'm going to tell you, Trent, those relationships are as difficult to cultivate and to keep and to earn trust and respect, that is like a 24/7, 365 job, you know, and, but it can be done, but it's a lot of work. And I've always believed that relationships are the most important thing, period. End of story. Relationships are how you move forward in anything. And so I hope that that's what 120 has done, is it's built those relationships, cultivated them, and then other people can bloom, you know, under. That's my hope too. I'm with Jeni on that. Let's put ourselves out of business, but not this year, because we're in a real bind this year. Yeah.
Not doing it anytime soon, sadly.
No, my retirement's, you know, been pushed off a little bit.
You know, our forecasting, we're basically going to be fighting probably once again this year for our pensions. We're going to be fighting vouchers. We're going to be fighting for funding. So it's the same old song and dance, just a different day, it seems like. But here we are.
Yep.
Well, I love what you both had to say about empowering people to learn to advocate for themselves. I think that that's so vitally important. And I love that all three of you are embodying that as women, as mothers, as professionals. I'm sitting here, Blair, I'm loving your child playing with your hair right now.
Oh my God, you all can see this? Oh
But I love it so much because I feel like you're embodying right now, like the whole thing that we're talking about, right? Is that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you. But I love that. And Nema, I don't know if you remember, but you and I had a phone call in late 2016, probably December of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember really clearly just having a conversation with you where we were talking about, like, what can we do to try and make a difference in our state? Like, how can we get people involved? And we went on and talked about various and sundry things, but and we've done various and sundry things, but I love that you all have embodied that change that we want to see in our state. And I'm so encouraged by it and so thankful for the work. And as a mother myself of children, I'm so thankful for all of the efforts that our educators are taking, not only in the classroom and in the work that they do, but to take that to Frankfurt and to try to make a long-term difference for our kids. And I know that not only will that change our schools, but it's also shaping our kids, because they are learning from your example that they can advocate for themselves and that they can stand up for what is right. And I think we will change things forever because of that. So no follow-up question, just to say I'm so grateful for you all for your work.
If I can give you any hopeful good news, is that when we are old and gray, an interesting tidbit is that out of all these rabble-rousing women we are friends with, pretty much all of us have daughters, and there's like maybe one or two that has a son sprinkled in or there, but I mean, seriously, it's like, it's almost a little bizarre that we all had daughters. So understand that I think they are all being raised to be about 10 times as strong, powerful, awesome, like bad A as we are, and I'll teacherify that word that comes on the end there. So look out world in about 10 to 15, 20 years, because they're going to give us a run for our money, and we're going to be in very good hands. So anyway, I just think it's always really funny when we realize that we're all raising daughters. But
it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a few comments. I mean, there's tons of comments here. I'm not going to get to all of them, but Sarah said, she wanted to be sure and mention the bus drivers, custodians, and, other workers like that who are within the umbrella of 120. It's really important. Donna said, love the beauty shop. Lydia said, friendships that we've created bind us together. And some folks are pretty confident that if it weren't for 120, they wouldn't be in office. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you all so much. Julie, thank you for being here and helping me out with everything. Dr. Bolander, I know you've had a rough day, so we really appreciate you being here, even with all that. And Nema, old friends, it's great to see you. It's been way too long.
It has been too long. We gotta get this virus by so we can get to work and get and just sit down and have a drink. You know, I mean, I it's amazing how much I've missed, you know, just sitting down and having a drink with somebody. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, good to see you all again. Yeah.
Yeah. And Blair, thanks for
Thanks for
popping on.
inviting me.
I know you had a lot going on too. So we appreciate you hopping on here. It's good for people to
Absolutely.
see your
Yeah,
face
it's
as
good to
one of
see
the
you, Blair.
co-founders. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
care.
Up next, we have Eric Bolander, who's going to play some music for us. But before I get to that, I just wanted to mention our next program. We're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about local real estate to the Central Kentucky region. I'm going to have Liz Hodge on, a top real estate person here in Lexington, and also a special guest, which I will announce soon. So if you have any questions related to those types of things, hopefully we'll get those answered next week. Same time, same place here online. Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So without further ado, we are going to, if Eric is ready, let me just make sure that he's ready real quickly. Letting him in at the moment. Eric, are you here? Can you hear us? And are you ready to play some tunes for us tonight?
I mean, my goodness, you'll just let anybody in here, won't you?
I know. That's right. Yeah. Well, while he's getting ready, I think a lot of people around town know Eric Bolander in the Lexington area. He's an awesome musician, been in bands, and he knows a lot about this sort of thing. And I hope there he is. All right, excellent. Good to see you fine, sir. Yes, sir. We can. I actually wanted to ask you a question before you get started. As someone who, who's been it's been a long time, but I was in bands for 10 years. Things are a lot different now than they were back then when I was doing it. I played up until 2013. And what's it like in the time of COVID to try to make it, get your name out there and all that sort of thing? I've been on Zoom calls where I listen to my friends play, but that's about it.
I guess thank God for the internet, one of the few big perks of social media right now for musicians, I think, is doing things like this where you go live or have opportunities to still sell some merch online and things like that. Because I'm a full-time art teacher as well, but 2019 I played close to 100 shows. So it's almost like a second job really. And then this year I've done 7 or 8 shows since March. Outside socially distanced type programs that's been going on since the summer, but obviously some of that stuff's going away too. It's been difficult. I know, some of my friends that are in the industry full time and that are, really struggling.
One of my friends he may be watching, I haven't seen his name pop up, but he did a live show. He lives in Portland now. And this was in the early days, and the Zoom got hacked. And there were some pretty awful things that got spread on the screen, and it was like his parents. It was pretty terrible. But I think we have better security in place now, and I make sure that I'll let people in and not just let anybody in. But thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to turn it over to you. My understanding is you're going to play 3 or 4 songs for us.
Yeah, I'll play a few songs. We hear that okay?
Yep.
All right. So this first song I thought it'd be appropriate is a song I wrote about politicians, and no bias there, just in general, people in power that don't really care as long as they have power, but I wrote this a while back before an election day. This is a while back, like 2015, I think, something like that. It's called Empty Soul. You be there for me, take me up for free, the rent is it too soon? The race marches on, I will sing this song, though be unheard. Alive in a better new, not any old. that it will come to an end. You sleep, my friend, and 1,000 bears you have stolen. No remorse and an empty soul. Smile on your face, it's not a saving grace to us from afar. While you campaign for progress and change, we are too gone. I lie here in this bed of nails without any hope. That it will come to an end. Will you sleep, my friend? And 1,000 bears you have thrown. No remorse and an anthem. I lie here in this bed of death without any hope. That it will come to you when you sleep, my friend, and 1,000 bears you have thrown. No remorse and an empty soul. All right, that's called Empty Soul.
Very good. Yes, yes.
Please hold the applause, please. That is one of the weird things, like you play into your phone so many different times. It's just like it's weird thing. It's a nice little change up though. Being on Zoom, I can at least see somebody's face or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play the title track off my record that came out last year. Kind of sticking with the theme. This song, "The Wind," is really, it's sort of about my granny indirectly, but it's just about facing adversity and kind of trying to face it head on, you know. Some people can, some people don't. Some people need others that do it to lead the way. So this is "The Wind." So why don't the wind blow me away? Why don't the wind blow me down? Tried and tested along the way. Don't know if I'm resting. I'm here to stay. Yeah. Why don't the wind blow me away? Why don't the wind blow me down? I can't see past all the trees. Why don't this wind blow me away? Oh, blow me away. 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 Yeah. Why don't wind blow me away? Why don't the wind blow me down? You seem so invested. See it stay. You wanna contest it. I'm here to stay. Yeah. Why don't the wind blow me away? Why don't the wind blow me down? All right, The Wind from last year's record. So the last one I'll do is a song I wrote about the situation with the Black Jewel Mining Company. I know Jenny and a lot of the folks from the 120 went down to help out with those protesters, give them some snacks and water and stuff. I was asked to play a show that was a fundraiser in Pineville for those folks. There were several, 3 or 4 of them are along the same couple weekends that people were doing. Artists were just playing and trying to raise some money for the families for the Black Jewel Mining Company. And about 10 days before the event, I just didn't feel right doing it without writing a song about it. So the whole situation's messed up. So I grew up, my dad was a union carpenter and worked construction, and there was 3 kids at one point in the house. You know, my older brother and sister, 8 and 9 years older. But with all of us and mom, you know, working really hard, what would happen if he went several months without pay, you know, being the only financial support in the house. And I was like, man, that's just ridiculous, you know, considering there was about $1 million worth of coal sitting on the railhead. And that's why the folks were sitting on the railhead, so that way they couldn't move it. So that's what kind of kickstarted it. But I got an opportunity to go spend the day in Cumberland, Kentucky, where it was, which is in Harlan County. And I spoke with a guy named Chris, who was one of the leaders in that protest. And he really said it was all in how he got treated when he went up to the locked gate to ask about pay. Is basically what put it in his head that, hey, I'm gonna sit on this railroad until, you know, something happens. Like, you know, just because you got the power over me doesn't mean that's right of you to do that, you know. So I wrote this song. It's going to be coming out in February. It's called Cold Men. Let me tune that guy up for a second. All that build up. What you get the capo? Here you go, Cold Men. You only said some cold man, it's top stuff. Friendship, family. Spent your whole life living on the short side. A puppet on company string. And take all of your wisdom without saying your prayer. Don't be, you just don't care. Cold man, just don't care. A young girl full of dreams and aspirations sees her daddy full of pain. She wonders if the family seeks salvation while the bills not paid. Take all your wishes without saying a prayer. Just told me you just don't care. You told me just don't care. Wake on your wishes without saying your breath. Live on whisper. You told me you just don't care. Told me just don't care. Told me just don't care. All right.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Thanks for having me on tonight.
absolutely. I was actually born in Harlan, raised in Leslie County, so
Oh, okay.
know all about that area. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How for those who might not be familiar with your music, where would they go to learn more?
Oh, the best thing is just Eric Bolander, just my name, .com. That's it.
Okay.
It has all the social links, and I'm on all the streaming. So if you use Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon, whatever, you just search Eric Bolander and you'll find it.
All right, very good. Well, we very much appreciate this, and I miss live music quite a bit during all this, and I'm sure you do too. Seeing it in person, being able to play music with people in person, seeing your friends there. I saw you at Cosmic Charlie's, I think, the first time, which is, I guess, no longer in existence now.
Yeah, wow, that was a while ago. Are you talking about the one in Woodland?
The one where Mirror Twin is, I think.
Oh, okay, the second location.
Yeah, second location. Yeah,
oh, okay,
we played at the Cosmic Charlie's over on Woodland 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah, it was fun times. Well, listen, we really appreciate you and all of our other wonderful guests for being on tonight. It is much appreciated, and look forward to seeing everybody who's out there next week. So join us again. Happy to have you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trent.
All right.